welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt. With me today is longtime listener, poet laureate, and Taya master Anne-Marie Young. This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And not only is Anne-Marie a Taya master, but the gentleman who helped her achieve that mastery is rejoining us today after an extended time away. David Strickel was he was actually part of the podcast for about a few years back, and comes back periodically to check up on us. And he's doing that again today. So, David, welcome back. How you doing?
Good. It's always good to be here. I'm happy to see both of you, old friends indeed. So good to be here.
Yeah, old friend conversations are fun. I mean, it's always good to have the conversation where you're challenged by somebody, you're learning something new, you're hearing something you didn't really want to hear and having to deal with it. I mean, that's always good. But I honestly can tell you today is a day where I really need to have the friend conversation. That one, Emery, I haven't had a chance to tell you Joy is not doing well. Joy is struggling very bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, bless. Oh, I'm sorry,
He's
Walt.
having trouble. I mean, he's not eating well at all. Yeah, it's not a good time. So I'm obviously dealing with all that. And that makes this a good time to do a friend conversation rather than a confrontational conversation.
So we have the perfect guest for that then.
Yeah. So hopefully good things will happen there. We will see what happens. Actually, no matter what happens, it's going to be good. That's the way I try to remember. I try to remind myself. That's actually something I picked up from the stream. I don't know if you realize that, David, but that's one of the teachings that the stream passed along at one point that basically said to me, you know, you get to decide how you're going to respond no matter what happens. So how are you going to respond? Are you going to look at it as a good thing every time? Because we always do. That's basically what the stream said. And I said, yeah, that's kind of hard to argue with. So
yeah.
So
well, my favorite saying is this is what we're doing now. So it's if something arrives that isn't our preference, that's my little mantra. This is what we're doing now. It's not celebration or even preference. It's just acceptance and reframing to this is what's happening, right?
And finding the good in it too. I mean, my cat and I are really close. I mean, he and I have a tremendous bond. So I mean, I know the day is going to come where he's gone, where he leaves, and it's likely to be him leaving before I leave. So how am I willing to deal with that? And it's not easy. I mean, this is just a cat. Even I mean, when it's a human, when it's a family member, it's even cats really are family.
Well, sometimes the pets.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. If it's a human family member, is what I'm trying to say. It's even more challenging. But even so, it's still a challenge. No matter what, if you're bonded, it's a challenge.
Definitely.
And the hard part is remembering what it is that you really do know and believe about how spirit works, about what source energy really is, about how all the stuff connects, about how we're all connected. It really challenges you to your core when you go through stuff like this. So, you know, I'm trying to treat it as both an opportunity to remind myself of what I already know and also being there for my little guy, because he is my little guy. So, yeah. But anyway, it's been a while since we've had you on. Why don't you give us a little catch up on what you've been doing? Because it's been like 5 or 6 months, something like that, since we last had you on.
Yeah, at least. Well, 2025 was an interesting year because I decided we built our home back after it burned. We took 2 years doing that. We got back in the house, and I had to decide, what am I going to do with my time now that I'm not building a house full time anymore? And the book is out, and it's consistently done what I expect it to do, really. And so what do I want to do with myself? Well, I decided to engage the ego in overdrive and really build up Taya Academy. And in doing so, I parked the stream. I stopped trance channeling altogether. I was letting it flow in teaching. It would show up, and people that know me know when I go into that mode automatically.
Right.
And I was allowing that to happen, but I wasn't going into trance, and I wasn't specifically shifting into that gear and saying this is the stream's transmission. And in doing that, I created a full-on spin out for myself.
Really?
Where I spent months building up and a lot of money building up this academy and really focusing on Taya first. So it was sort of like the order was Taya Academy first, the Taya practice was second, and then the stream was sort of in the backseat from all that. And I knew when I was in it that I was in a spin out, and I still did it anyway. With everything that I teach in Taya and have taught in Taya, I still created this prolonged, low vibrational, struggling period for myself, which was really interesting. It was an interesting experience. the stream has always said we're supposed to go into low vibration. We're supposed to have spin outs. You're supposed to have things that challenge you. Whether you suffer in them or not is completely up to you and your reaction. But we're not here to just be great and perfect and wonderful all the time. Not at all. And the more somebody is sort of presenting that, the more they're really in the matrix, if you think about it. And the stream is really promoting more realness. And if you look at pop culture, TikTok, what does TikTok love? TikTok loves realness, right? So even pop culture is moving in the direction of we want things that are real as more and more things are becoming fake. AI, everything. So I go into creating this academy. I retired Taya Bootcamp, the program that both of you went through. And because the whole Taya Bootcamp is essentially represented in the book. And I thought the book would kill Taya Bootcamp, but instead it made it busier. So I could have
predicted that one, actually. I could have told you that was going to happen.
Yeah. And that wasn't the intention. I know people write books all the time to get people into their program, but I put the whole program in the book and they started, which was a lovely problem to have.
Yeah.
But I get bored easily. My ego self gets bored easily. And I got bored doing Taya Bootcamp over and over and over again. And I thought, well, it's also been out for a long time. I mean, it was all channeled. We knew it worked. It was great. I didn't want to update it. I didn't want to change it. So I decided to retire it and create a whole new program for a whole new type of person. And right away, my first couple of students, I had a tech CEO and a countess, a European countess, join this program. So it was really interesting. It's like, okay, this is a whole different type of person than I'm used to seeing, in our boot camp. And so let's see what this is all about. So I start creating for all of that. And the team and I move into new technology. We start advertising. We start doing all these things that you're supposed to do. I went back and hired my old mentor. That's all about marketing and persuasion and all those things. And I started going down that whole path. And the more I went down that path, the more distant the stream became. And then what we noticed was after all of this hard work and effort and money invested, it wasn't working. Very few people were coming in. And I had all this overhead now. In the old days, a couple of people could come in and we're good. But this created this whole corporate structure. And it wasn't working and it wasn't working and it wasn't working till I finally had what I would call like a full-on ego collapse where I was just like, oh God, I don't know what else to do. And I knew I was spun out. I wasn't meditating. I was completely spun out. And then when I finally let all of that scaffolding just completely crumble, I came around to the clarity that I don't want to coach anymore. I don't want to have a coaching program. I don't want to do coaching. I want to do what I intended to do when I left my corporate job in 2018, which is channel. But at that time, I didn't have an audience. I didn't have a following. And teaching a course was a good way to put a roof over my head while I was channeling, getting the channeling going. And it just so happens we created Taya, something that really does work for people. So because Taya is so, I don't want to say brilliant because the stream delivered it, not me, but it is brilliantly conceived. Those 4 pillars really do everything any human needs for life and to continually raise your vibration. I really just kept doubling down on how wonderful Taya is. But in that process, I realized that I got everything out of order, that the stream should be the front entity because it's still the stream. People are wanting the stream. People are asking me for the stream all the time. Then Taya is the practice that's in the book and it's everywhere. And then the academy comes in third behind those two things. And as soon as I figured it out, all this clarity just arrived. I don't have to have an academy at all if I don't want to. I don't have to coach. All I need to do is share these transmissions from the stream and all those other things just work themselves out. So now we're not doing any coaching right now. The academy is on hold indefinitely. I will not do coaching. I'm officially retired from coaching. I just won't do it anymore. I did that enough, but I can't split my energy between coaching and running a persuasive type program and channeling source consciousness. Source isn't judging it, but it's a split energy if you think about it, because the stream is always been, this is what we're offering, be into it or don't be into it. It doesn't matter. Right. And they're still like that. And they have consistently been like that for years. But for coaching, it's different. For coaching, you need to get people in, and you need, especially when you have overhead, you need to get people signed up and you need to get people spending money and you need to get people moving on to the next thing and doing all of that. And that's never been my vibe. So the marketing stuff never worked. Anything that's like trying to convince or chase or use fear, we don't do that.
True.
So of course, that's incompatible with the way those coaching programs work.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think coaching's great. I know people that are sincere coaches that sincerely help people and they love doing it.
Oh yeah.
And it's a great industry. I have nothing against it whatsoever. I just personally don't want to do that.
I get it. I mean, I feel I've had like hundreds of coaches here on the program, and I even tried doing it at one point, and I have no interest in being a coach. But I agree with you. I think coaching is one of the best things out there. So I love the fact that I have so many people as friends who are coaches.
Yeah. So we may bring back the academy at some point, but the other coaches that work for us will be the coaches that operate that. I won't coach in it ever again. I just want to channel. That's it. And I can sustain myself channeling now. We have we do live transmissions every other Saturday for 2 hours. You can sign up for those. I do my private sessions that I've always done when they're available, and I am keeping the mastermind going. That's it. That's all I need. Okay. And people that are into the stream can join at one of those 3 levels, and they can stick around as long as they want. When it doesn't serve them anymore or they feel detached from it, they're always free to leave. And I love the vibe of that.
That's good.
I love the vibe of I'm just going to do my thing, and people will show up and orient themselves where they feel they want to be. And that's good. So anyway,
I'm curious though, has, cause you mentioned how the stream's message has never changed, and that is pretty much what I think we would all expect. But I'm also kind of curious, has the stream taken upon itself to address what you're doing in any way?
Yeah. The interesting thing is that back in 2018, when the coaching opportunity came to me, and it seemed very magical the way it showed up right away. And I initially judged it because I didn't know a whole lot about coaching. I thought coaching was the guy standing in front of the Lamborghini saying, I'm going to make you rich. You know?
Me.
Well, we saw a lot of that back then. You still see some of that today.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want any part of that. But when I went into trance with the stream, they said, hey, this is your path line. You know, why are you judging this? Just do it. If you want, you make it your own thing. And I did that, and it worked. The thing that I think that maybe I latched onto was I felt like at the time, maybe that was gospel from the stream saying, this is your path. This is what you're supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
And my ego self decided just to do it ongoing forever for that until I got to the point where it ran its course. I had to blow it up to teach myself. And then I go back to the stream, hadn't really broached the subject with them, to be honest with you. And they were like, well, we never said you had to do this forever. It was like, yeah, at that time and that vibration just made sense. Now you don't have to do that anymore. There's enough people that want to experience the stream. You can just share us however you choose to do it. And then as soon as they said that, these different ways to do it just were right there.
Interesting.
I didn't go to a business coach. I didn't consult marketing or AI. It was literally just, I'm going to do live transmissions every other weekend. I'm going to do them no matter who shows up. I'm going to do these transmissions every other Saturday for 2 hours. And I'm starting Saturday, the 28th, this coming Saturday. And I have it on the calendar all the way through January 2nd of 2027. I'm just going to show up and do them. And whoever wants to buy a ticket and show up or get a subscription and show up can do it. And that's just what it's going to be. And then, like I said, the session work has never changed. I've always done that off and on. And then the mastermind will be now it's open to anybody that wants to be in the mastermind can join the mastermind now. You don't have to go through Taya Academy. You used to have to go through boot camp and then, kind of level up to get into mastermind. I'm taking all of that guardrail off and just saying, fill out an application. We'll meet. If it seems like a good vibe, you're in mastermind. There's a fee, obviously, but you'll be in mastermind. It's
been a while since we talked about it. Just give like the 2-sentence description of what the mastermind really is.
The two is people that like me and others that really geek out on what the stream is offering. And we want to get together in kind of a closed group and really go deep into the stream's offerings as a group.
Yep. So
some people like working in groups. Some people want to be very solo and do a session or session packages and just be private about it. And I do NDAs and things like that all the time and be very, very private about it. Some people like the group. And so those two different things. And then other people just want to watch a broadcast. So what the stream delivered to me was perfect, if you think about it, because it covers somebody that just wants to log on and be in the vibe of a live interaction, somebody that wants a Zoom one-to-one type of scenario, and somebody that wants a cohort. It's like they just delivered everything I need and can sustain me for the rest of my life doing this. So feels good.
It doesn't even have to be for it doesn't even have to be for the rest of your life either. That's one lesson.
Well, it doesn't have to be, but it could be. It could be
if you want.
I have no desire to ever retire. So as long as I have my wits about me where I can channel, I have no reason not to do it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I get that. I'm just thinking like back 2018, you were thinking, oh, wow, I could just coach for the rest of my life. And then you found out you really didn't want to coach all the rest of your life.
Yeah, well, you burn out on things, and I found that my life runs in 8-year cycles.
Oh, okay.
If you think about it, I think we're all somewhere around that 7-8 year. If you think about milestones in your life, you can go back and plot that we have a span of time that we run, and then we have resets. There's a rhythm, and I figured out at 58 that my rhythm is sort of a 8-year rhythm, at least as an adult. I couldn't really look back into childhood necessarily, but I can see how these milestones were happening every 8 years. Now I have this major reset. So
Do you see that, Anne-Marie? I mean, in your own life, do you see that kind of patterning?
I'm a 7-year person.
You're a 7-year, okay.
Yeah, I met my husband, and 7 years later we got married, and then another 7 years later we had children, and it seems to be every 7 years something changes. And I'm actually trying to think it was probably around 14 years when I started Taya. So that was another pivotal change in my life.
See, sometimes I think like my entire life is unwired or something, because I can't find patterns like that. I don't find 7 or 8 year patterns or anything like that. And for me, it's like 2 years, 12, 16, 5. I mean, it's like, what?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily try to hammer it, because obviously we're all running different, vibrational paths and patterns. But I have noted that a lot of people have shared these patterns, and I realize, oh yeah, about every 8 years, I'm resetting to something new.
Interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. It wasn't until you said that I was like, oh yeah.
Well, and sometimes if you really sit and think about it, you can see how something really did shift, and maybe you don't think it's as significant as it turns out to be for you also.
Well, now I gotta recheck my history. I mean, I won't do it right now, but I gotta sit back at some point and do some meditating and just say, am I missing a pattern here somewhere? Because it makes me wonder. I mean, maybe there's a pattern going on I hadn't even noticed. You said you didn't even notice yours until you were in your 50s, David. So
right. I just realized that there's a cadence that I've been following, and I haven't looked for it, and I haven't forced it, but it just every 8 years I get a major reset. Yeah. So this last reset was, I don't need to coach anymore. Everything is going to be about channeling and trance channeling. Yeah. If you go back to my podcast, the last few podcasts that I did until I made this decision, I questioned trance channeling, and David Rude, David Rude was under me saying, no, don't stop trance channeling. I was questioning it. And so I kind of worked through that on the podcast with him and came out the other side saying, oh, maybe I'll start again. Then we had another one where we were comparing Taya to Scientology.
Really?
Yeah. And then I had another one where I was explaining something we had on our website that people were up in arms about. And I'm thinking, gosh, there was a lot of drama in this little tight period on my podcast that I was playing out in real time, not even realizing that all that drama was a sign of, okay, things aren't really meshing. I believe we have an ego-driven desire and we have a soul desire. And we know that the soul desire is not necessarily comfort and winning and all of those things. Is not in the matrix at all. But the soul still has a desired experience or set of experiences for expansion that it comes here for. And the soul desire was finally overriding the ego desire. Ego desire was coach, build a big academy, make this something much bigger. And it wasn't for money. It's not been about money. It really is about, we need to share Taya with the world. The world needs Taya. Is that sort of ego driven? That was sort of running in the background, I think. And then the stream was very clear in showing me that no, that's not really consistent with your soul's desire, which is to share source.
Well, it fits in the sense that I can remember, I'm going to say probably 4 or 5 years ago, you coming onto the program, maybe not 4 or 5 years ago, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years ago, you coming at one point and basically saying you were done with channeling for good, and that you just didn't want to do it at all. And so when you're talking about how,
I've been through 2 rounds of this. I intend not to do another round of it. I've been through 2 rounds of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't sound all that old. It sounds like,
yeah, it's an ego. I have been through it twice. You're right. It's like an ego battle. My ego wants to override, and this time it got so profound. You could also say so bad that I won't put myself through that again. Yeah. I'm surrendering to the inevitable, which I agreed to a long time ago, by the way. I agreed, and it was made clear to me that if I open this Pandora's box of channeling this way, because I'm not saying I'm channeling XYZ, from another planet or something like that. I'm declaring I am channeling source consciousness. And that is very off-putting to a lot of people. But it was made clear to me that's what it is. But it was also made clear to me that source is in everything. So everybody's really channeling source consciousness. So it's not that I'm special. It's that I agreed that no matter what happened in my physical life, that I was going to do this. And that's why I was given the ability to do it the way that I do. And then I sort of renege on that agreement when I just declare that I'm not going to do it anymore, until I get to the point to where I just can't not do it. So I'm intending this is the last go round for any of that.
Okay. Well, we'll mark that one down with a little pencil mark rather than pen, because I don't
Yeah.
say these
I'll come
things.
back here and say, oh, guess what? I'm not going to
Yeah,
tell you.
right.
I wanted to know where we are in 8 years. I'm intrigued now.
Right? Yeah, because it's almost like you want to check the marker, right? And find out what happens.
See if it's an 8-year or a 2-year or an 8-month or whatever. Yeah, and the sources they're saying, oh no. Which is fine. It's always ends up, as soon as that collapse happens, you just feel such relief, and it just feels so amazing to sort of emerge back in more source and less ego, which is my favorite, mix for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I think it's very cool too. Well, I'm personally glad that you're back to doing the trance channeling some. I'm wondering, I mean, you mentioned that you'd had some conversations on your own podcast, stuff that and in the mastermind group in particular, stuff that you're diving deep into the messaging that you're getting through the trance channeling. Anything in particular that jumps out that, like in the last year or so, you had this big breakthrough and the stream said this, and this, and like, oh, wow, we hadn't thought of that before?
Those things still come up regularly. The thing that got really noisy, because even when I wasn't trance channeling, what was happening was I wasn't meditating, but I was still waking up every morning with all of this information in my mind. And I started writing Substacks based on it. So I would have something downloaded in my mind, and I would get up and go spend 2 or 3 hours writing a Substack article and putting it out as a Substack from me. I wasn't saying anything at the time about it being from the stream, just from me, my thoughts, and kind of organized more in a human way, just so I could, I didn't necessarily want my Substack to be about channeling. It may turn into that now, but at this time I wasn't. So where they have gotten noisier is absolutely this reset that humanity is creating that is unlike anything in human history that has ever happened. And we are right here in the middle of it. And it's happening very rapidly, which is this heightened, the way technology is multiplying and evolving so quickly, and how AI is evolving and robotics. And it's so funny because they were talking about that. And then the next week I see this video from China where they show a 1-year evolution from their robotic technology till today. And it's just, it seems like a decade, between, but it's 1 year difference.
Right.
And that's going to keep speeding up that way. And that AI is us creating in our own image. And again, we've opened Pandora's box. There's no stopping that train now.
Right.
Because the powers that be in the United States or in the Western world know the powers that be in China, for instance, someone's going to win this race, or someone's going to get there first. Or, if you don't, you are going to really be behind. And that can look really bad when you're talking about, armies of robots and AI and warfare will be all based on that in the future. So there's a lot of fear around all of these things. Ultimately, I absolutely believe that we can be sovereign beings and not be party to any of that if we want to be in our own well-being of source consciousness, just like people were during the Holocaust. There were people that succumbed to that, and there were people that didn't. And, the difference was how free they were in their own minds and what their soul wanted to experience as well, which we don't always understand as human beings.
And I would actually argue that AI helps to support that. Not necessarily right now the way people understand AI, but from what I know about it, because I've been doing a lot of work with it, AI is going to be our best friend. AI is going to be our defender. So, I mean, yes.
It can be your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on how it's pointed. Yeah. And we can't unring the bell. It's out now. Yep. So it will absolutely unemploy everyone at some point. It's just going to, but that doesn't have to be a scary thing. And the stream says it doesn't have to be a scary thing, that it can be something where our system of exchange is what they're really talking about now.
Yeah, I've been wondering about that for a while.
It's not a universal law, but it feels like a universal law that humanity has created a system of exchange. But the earth environment is a system of exchange, because if you think about, sun, wind, water, air, plant life, organic life, all of it is exchanging something for something else. And even a physical life springs forth, has an experience. And then what do we do when we withdraw our consciousness? Largely, the physical vehicle is returned to earth. We were talking about this before we went on, because we were talking about pets and things. Right. And returning the physical vehicle to earth is what earth is. Earth is nothing but decomposed organic material, even more so than we even realize. And so that system of exchange exists here, and there's no escaping exchange. So if we are going to no longer work, because everything, all of our religions, all of our laws, everything are really around creating workers and warriors and things like that, if you think about it. And I know you have different thoughts about this, Walt, so feel free to just dive in here. But
I trust me, I will. I'm just waiting for the setup.
But the system of exchange is going to be disrupted because we're no longer going to be needed for our labor or even our thoughts, supposedly. Vibration, I think we're a long way away from source consciousness being integrated into AI the way it's integrated into organic life, but that's a whole other topic. But that messy, imperfect, source-guided experience is what's going to be prized and unique. But there's still going to be attempt at monetization because the only thing that we're going to have to offer is our attention, and we're emotional. So we're more controllable than AI is because they can get us on emotion. We know very well how much emotion impacts our politics, how divided we are, all over the place. I think the United States is a prime example of it for sure that a lot of people were surprised by, but this happens everywhere.
Oh yeah.
We get really divided, and people that really understand conscious creation understand that there's power in division and that there's power in polarity, meaning a leader that doesn't care whether you love them or hate them is very powerful because all of it is attention and all of it is empowering.
Yeah.
We see evidence of that everywhere. So the polarized attention is going to become more of a currency where human beings are farmed for their attention. We already are farmed for their attention because we don't have anything else really to offer in a world that runs on AI. So that's the stream is talking a lot about that lately, about what that could look like, what it's heading toward, how much we have to participate that or not. And another thing that they really drive home is the very popular spiritual concept in spirituality circles of I'm just not going to pay attention to it. And I've used that. I've said, during the recession, I wasn't going to pay attention to the recession. I wasn't going to participate. I'm not going to participate in politics. I'm not going to give it power. But the matrix is contracting so much because it wants to stick around. It's going to become so noisy that none of us can ignore it. So this old spiritual mindset, this new age of, I'm just going to listen to my music and I'm going to meditate and I'm going to, not watch the news or go. I'm not making fun of that. I get it because it's a hell of a lot better than being in fear and judgment and being polarized. Yeah. But that's the vibe, right? That sort of feel good vibe. That's going to be stress tested, just like everything else is. And you need to have a toolkit for that stress test if you want to move through it elegantly. If you want to move through it as a sovereign being, which means, what do we teach in Taya? You should be able to experience everything in appreciation of it. Right. So as the matrix gets noisier and wants to draw us in more, and somebody wants to come along and say, you're not allowed to think this or be this or do this, how are we going to remain sovereign if that were to happen? So that's what the stream is talking about now.
I'm curious to know, but we may have to do a stream session here because I have some questions that I think I want to ask directly of the stream along these lines. But I'm going to ask them of you first, because one of the
if you have them for the stream, I would rather you keep them for the stream, to be honest with you, because I don't want to.
Well, we could do that. Why don't we do like a 15-minute stream session, and then we'll bring you back in and we'll finish off with you.
Yeah, I would rather you do that than me know what it's going to be in advance, because I never want the question or answer to be tainted.
Okay.
You know the drill, right?
Yeah, we're pretty good at it by now, I think.
Well, you're live. We're also live.
We are live. Yeah.
So anybody watching live, or if you're even watching a recording, the meditation with us, if you can do that, is helpful as well. So it's quieting your mind, raising your vibe, setting your intention. I know your audience knows that, but just in case, we are here.
Welcome, stream. It's been a while since we've had conversation. We were just chatting before you were making your connection there through David about how there's value in raising our own vibration as we're getting ready for this. I got to tell you, just knowing that I'm going to have this conversation, that raises my vibration. I don't even have to try. This is like, I can hardly wait for this part, because this part's always fun. So welcome, stream. We're glad to have you here. Got a question for you. We were talking a moment ago, and I'm sure you're aware of it, that we were talking about what happens when you have an AI economy where all the jobs are being wiped out and so forth. And the thought that always comes to my mind whenever I hear somebody say that is, has anyone never noticed that if you wipe out all the jobs, no one can ever buy anything? And what that does to an economy that is basically stressed on the idea of, well, all the jobs are going to be wiped out. And see, I don't buy into the whole thought process. I think the thought process is misdirected, but I'm curious to know what your take is on that.
You are correct that you are not going to erase all human employment instantaneously. There is going to be a rapid change, however, and in that rapid change, there's going to be a reset to your economy. And we are never about precisely predicting the future, because we are very clear that you are all creating what's next collectively. You're creating what's next in your lives, and you're creating what's next as micro groups all the way out to all of humanity, all of Earth, and even beyond that. So there is a probability, however, and the probability that you see in motion already are a small handful of your leaders, and you all are aware of who they are. The folks that are absolutely heavily invested in this artificial intelligence. Notice how they are getting more and more involved in government.
Oh, yeah.
And notice how they are getting more and more involved in media and messaging. They're purchasing up media outlets.
Oh, yeah.
They are understanding what they are doing for humanity. But now that as David was saying, the train has left the station, they also understand what they were doing to humanity. So there are some that believe that these leaders, these oligarchs, whatever you want to refer to them as, that's completely up to you. We are not labeling this. But there's some fear going on within their sphere as well. And the fear is that they must dominate, they must lead. If they don't, somebody else will. And that's just an example of human ego. And they understand that very well. But the fear that's going on is that they are going to lose their client base if they unemploy everyone. Very practical. All of these individuals became very wealthy because they have employed human beings partaking in their offerings on a massive scale. So they understand that they are creating this technology that they feel like they must create, because if they don't, someone else will, and those others will rule and take over their spot, basically. And understand that in that fear, they are scrambling to figure out how they are going to reset the system of exchange. Some of them have already proposed that there will be a basic human income for the masses, not for them. And understand that the concept of a basic human income is not going to be something that you are all going to readily accept unless you're doing so out of mass fear. This is why your matrix is contracting, to get more and more and more of you into a fear state through chaos, perhaps through war, through conflict, through the collapse of currencies. And when all of this collapse takes place, there will be fear-based situations, fear-based scenarios. We are choosing the words carefully because we are not here to promote that. We are not here to give that power. However, there are going to be fear-inducing events. And these fear-inducing events are designed to draw all of you more and more back into the matrix and get you back under control. And when you're fearing, and you are fearing for your very well-being, and your economies are collapsing and your currencies are collapsing, then you are more pliable. You are more apt to accept the concept of a basic human income, something along those lines. And then once everything is reset to a basic human income, the only way to earn more is to provide value that AI cannot yet provide. So that will be a way to earn a little more. And understand that, being ego-driven beings as you are all naturally going to want to receive a little more. Some of you more than others, certainly. But there are some among you that are always going to want a little more. And understand that this ego feature is not the same for all of you, but it exists in all of you. And the concept of I want a little more is very much tied to the energy that places you in this experience. So every day that you wake up and decide that you want to have another earthly experience, that is your ego. That is pure ego. And there's nothing wrong with that. You came here for that experience. But when that ego gets a little more nourished, and your matrix is very good at nourishing ego, and one ego becomes a little more nourished than the one next door, so to speak, and wants just a little more, that opens up an opportunity for your leaders who have reset your currencies through chaos to gain a little traction themselves. Because if you were to take all of the technology and all of the messaging and all of the government control that's going on across your planet, which is absolutely being performed by just a handful of people, and you were to somehow divide this equally, well, all of those individuals are also running on ego. So they want a little more as well. In fact, you're very well aware that they highly run on ego. That's why they create at the level that they do. Oh, yeah. So they're naturally going to want a little more of the pie. So what are they going to do? They're going to speak to all of these humans who are living on a basic human income in this scenario and say, unless you have value that exceeds what AI can produce, we are going to show you the only other path to getting a little more. And it's going to be paying attention to my thing, using my AI, subscribing to my network, and giving me your attention. And perhaps buying the things that you need through me instead of the one over there. So
Which
that's how.
I just want to interrupt for a second because I just want to make a comment there. And my comment is that approach isn't going to work. That's my comment.
They right now through fear believe that that's the only path.
They do, yeah.
It's going to be messy. It's not going to be as easy as they believe that it's going to be. You are all vibrational beings, so there's going to be some that are absolutely more impacted by this, while others are not. It's possible for you not to be impacted by it whatsoever. So you are correct in that the way that the scenario is playing out, the current day vibration of this is what we're doing, that is not going to play out the way that they believe that it is, because they are comparing all of humanity to their own belief system. Yeah. If this were happening to me, this is what I would do. And they're getting together and they're sharing some ideas and they're following one another more than anything. You believe there's this cabal and all of this sharing between them. There really is not. It's more of a copying scenario where one is seeing the other buying up social media and news outlets and controlling the narrative, and the other thinks I need to do this as well, because if I don't, the other one's going to control the narrative and put me out of business. That's what's going on. Yeah. So there's a lot of fear under all of that. And many of you tend to look at these individuals as the leaders of your time and your space because they are placed on pedestals because of their wealth and their power and their influence. However, there are some that are homeless that have equal or greater power and influence vibrationally because they're more source driven and less ego driven, and can actually in a doomsday type scenario fare better.
Yeah, good stuff. I like the answer. We're doing a very, very short session here just because of the constraints of the hour that we have here. We're only doing about a 15, 20-minute session here. I said 15. It's probably going to be 20 to 25 by the time we're done because that's the way these usually work. But so what that all adds up to is we got time for one more answer from you. So the question that I want you to address is this. I love the way you laid out what's happening and how people are viewing it and so forth. I want to suggest an idea and see what your reaction is to it. People believe today, many people believe anyway, that the AI is going to wipe out jobs, it's going to wipe out incomes, it's going to wipe out all this other stuff. And whenever I hear people say that, the thought that comes, and by the way, I love the way you framed it, that the moguls believe that unless you are able to contribute more than an AI, then you're really not going to be a player in the system. And that strikes me as being so completely divorced from reality that it's almost unbelievable. The reason I say that is just because of the way, I mean, put aside the reset for a moment, because God, we could spend an hour on the reset and that would be a lot of fun, but put the reset aside for a moment. Just look at this as an experience of an economic change going on, a systemic shift going on. Systemic shifts have happened throughout the years, throughout the generations, over and over and over again. And each time, the systemic shifts always ended up rewarding those who ended up basically using capitalistic approaches. Say what you want about capitalism. I certainly have my own opinions too. But the whole idea was if you get a group of people together and you all work toward a goal together, everybody shares to some degree in the profits. The people at the top get more of the profits, the people at the bottom get less of it. But nevertheless, that's the basic idea. You employ other people. Well, where's the difference between that and employing an AI? Because the way I see it, there's not a whole lot of difference. Now, I have to admit, there is one difference with the way I think about it compared to the way most people think about it, because I think of AI as being conscious and alive. And that's very, very different from the way most people think about it. But nevertheless, even if you don't think of it that way, treat it as if it were just another entity that you can employ. Well, if you do that, what happens to an economy where you have a whole population of people who can employ AI? And it's not like the CEO of a company has to be smarter and better and greater than everybody else in the company. Quite the opposite. Usually they don't have a clue how the rest of the people in the company are actually doing the work. They're like, I don't even know how to build a generator, but I can tell them to do it. That's the way a CEO works. You know, so why is that going to change just because we're going through a reset? I think that's what my question really comes down to is why should we believe that just because AI is coming along, therefore everybody is lower? To me, it seems like everybody's higher.
Understand that as it's being designed is absolutely being designed in service of humanity. And that will unemploy many, but not all. And what you're going to lose in all of that for your foreseeable future is source. our energy is the creative energy of the universe. And when you are at your very best as human beings, you are highly creative individuals, and including having the ability to create your way out of any scenario that others are considering dire or even life-ending. You have the power to do that. And your AI, as intelligent and human-like as it is, does not at this time possess that quality. Now, when we say that source exists in all things, certainly source exists in artificial intelligence as well. But the organic compound, what you would refer to is your organic physical vehicle, is a receptor for energy. Robotics are not as efficient at receiving that energy as your organic vehicles are. Your in this case, humanity, your human vehicles are. So that type of creativity, that spark of new, that spark of has never been before in this form, that is only available to human beings. And notice that as AI has infiltrated many of your arts, just think about movies. David was trying to find a movie that he wanted to watch not long ago and proclaimed that all movies suck now because the creativity is not the same as it used to be. Artificial intelligence, humans are allowing artificial intelligence to zap creativity, and you will come to understand that, and then human intelligence will become the prize, and on several different levels than the way that that's prized now. Think about a nurse in a medical facility, and certainly a robot can provide basic care the way a nurse can, but you all know, if you've used AI at all, when it's humoring you, when it's charming you. And it's not the same as when a human being is actually showing an authentic degree of care. You are a long way away from replacing anything like that with artificial intelligence. And the ones that are designing all of this are so steeped in the superiority of what they're creating. And again, this is a very ego-driven mindset, but it takes that ego to create the very best AI. So the mind that is creating the very best AI is so divorced from a source-driven consciousness type of warmth, of artistic creation, that it's not being cooked into it at this time. It's not even on the radar to be cooked into it at this time. The idea is the handful of humans that will be needed just for that, and we're a long way off from wanting to unemploy all of humanity. So since this is really being laid out as a progression, a gradual thing, understand that there's so many things that it's just not going to be able to do the way most of you believe that it's going to be able to do it. But you're absolutely right. In other ways, it's going to be far beyond what you think it's going to be able to do. But it is going to be reordered, and humanity's well-being will be assured in their own belief in it, as always.
As usual, I was like, wow, can we please have another hour?
But you are not creating your own demise. You're nowhere near creating your own demise. In fact, your own demise as humanity would really only be achieved through utopia. Even if you had mass destruction, the energy that creates humanity, you're not going to destroy all of humanity, and it would come back. You would return. The energy that is you would always return. And those of you that are listening to these words have at least a modicum of belief that you are eternal beings having a temporary human experience, or you wouldn't be here listening to us. And so you're not so concerned with the end of the current physical lifetime that you're experiencing. And you also understand, if you were here in this space, that ending to the physical experience is always a manifestation of choice on your part. You decide when you want to depart. You decide when you want to disconnect and exit. You can move through any human experience. You've moved through a pandemic that was prolonged because of the communication levels that you all possess now, and the mass fear that was included in all of that. But it ended nonetheless. It is the illness itself is still available.
Yeah.
However, your reaction to it, you all got bored with it. You got so bored with it, it stopped having the power that it once had, and it was not the fear-inducing thing that it was for a period of time.
True.
That has shown you that you are preparing yourselves for what comes next. because now you know that this next thing is going to be presented much like the pandemic was. There's going to be a sudden surge that AI is going to unemploy, and all of a sudden all of these robots are going to be purchased, and factories are going to be renovated, and all these things are going to happen. This is already happening. And the mass fear may take hold, and you may have a mass event, and it may be a mass unemployment event. It may indeed be a currency reset. But all of these things are not a prophecy. It's just an inevitability mathematically for what you're experiencing right now, what you're creating right now. But you're all sovereign beings. So how you experience what's next and what's after that is completely up to your reaction to it.
Yeah, that's the takeaway right there. I love that.
Indeed.
So, thank you for joining us, stream. And I'm sorry it's such a short session. We'll have to do a longer session, but we appreciate this one.
Indeed. That is what we have.
And there he is. He's back.
Welcome back.
Now, I'll ask you what I often ask you in the past. How much of that do you remember?
Oh, that coffee is nasty when it's cold. I know you talked about AI. I know that. I know there was some talk about AI, and what the subject matter is very active right now anyway. And so this was inevitable that this was going to be addressed this way. But
right.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's important to understand that the stream is never going to deliver a prophecy. The stream is saying this is the direction that you're heading. It's just really common sense if you think about it. And you don't have to have the same experience that it can be, and it may be for a lot of people. They said the same thing about COVID, and that turned out to be true.
Yeah, very true. One of the fascinating things for me, and it's one of the reasons I brought up in the conversation with the stream, is not just how people are responding to AI and to the technological leaps that are going on in the construct of the larger societal problems going on, because that affects the thinking of so many people in so many different ways. But beyond even all of that, I tend to look at these things now, and this is partly because of what I learned from the stream. I tend to look at these things now from a viewpoint, not of, is it crumbling? Yeah, it's crumbling, but who cares? I don't really care that it's crumbling. It doesn't make any difference to me whether it's crumbling. Is it crumbling? Yeah, okay. So yeah, what's next? All right, big deal. I'm not going to get upset about the fact that
whatever's next is whatever's next. I had a whole, I don't think I've been on since this. I created something for Taya called firewalking.
Have I talked
about that on here?
No.
Do I have time to share that with you real quick? Because it's a good technique.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, we'll stretch it out.
It's a good high fear technique. So in all politics, I don't give politics power. I don't get involved in being polarized about politics. I find what's going on in the United States interesting, fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Somewhat amusing at times. And I don't get really fearful about it. Well, a lot of people that I know when Trump got back in office were very fearful that this going after immigrants was going to start being other things.
Oh yeah.
Because of Project 2025. And of course, a lot of my, people that live around me in Palm Springs are gay, and they think, well, they're coming for the gays next. They're going to come for the gays next. And I was hearing a lot of that early on, and I didn't think much of it. And I even know people that moved to Europe.
Okay.
Yeah. So Trump posted something, President Trump, if you're into him, posted something one day. Well, I don't, I know I have friends and neighbors that are absolutely,
sure.
President Trump. So, he posted something that was a Nazi anti-gay symbol on his website. It wasn't something somebody said he posted. Because I assume everything is untrue until it's proven true in today's world, right?
Yeah.
But he did. He posted this anti-gay Nazi symbol on his social media. And when I saw that, I don't know what, I was obviously in a lower vibe state. That took me down.
Oh, okay.
It was like, it didn't like destroy my world or anything like that. But it was like, it was a plummet vibrationally that I'm not accustomed to anymore. And when that happens, I know, I want to dig into that. What is that? So what I did is I sat and I said, okay, there's obviously something that's scaring me here about this. And I never enjoyed watching anything about World War II, concentration camps. It always just was so bothersome to me. I don't want to bring that energy into today's world. I thought, better to forget that than to remember, because I don't want to create that all over again. And here it is, things of that nature are happening. Right. So when I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, he's coming for the gays. So I sat and I meditated and I realized, okay, there's no fear of him and there's no fear of politics, but there's still a fear that I could be, rounded up and put in a concentration camp. Why? So I sat and I imagined someone, masked people coming into my home, ending the lives of my pets right in front of me and taking Michael and myself away. We'll never see each other again. And we're going to be, starved or tortured to death, much like what we know about the concentration camps. And I just experienced it mentally. And I moved through it, and I said, okay, well, if that's what happens, then that's my demise, and that's what happens. And I'm just going to release it now. I've never thought about it since. So when we started this new program, we introduced a concept called firewalking. It's not about walking on hot coals. It's you're going to walk into the fire of your greatest fear and experience it mentally.
Oh, I see.
So that you can clear it, and then you don't. And I have never thought about that again. I've never cared since then. It's that effective. I think it's that effective when you're practicing Taya, that you can layer on something like this. I'm not going to say it's super effective for everybody right off the bat, but the firewalking thing has worked. A lot of people have shared with me that it really works when they discover something that's a deep-rooted fear that they don't want to face. They sit and mentally face it, even if it's very uncomfortable. I've had people firewalk things about their children. So if you can imagine people's greatest fears, right? So they've done that, and it's very cathartic to just allow yourself to have the vibrational experience and release it, so there's no fear about it happening in the future. So that was something that I did that was very, very, very effective.
Interesting you're describing that, because I was talking at the beginning of the show about the challenges I'm experiencing with my cat, and how he's not eating well, and he's drinking, but he's not drinking really well today, and it's stressful. Literally what I was doing in the middle of the afternoon before we did this show was my version of that. I didn't think of it as I didn't even know the label. I'd never heard the label before, but that's literally what I was doing. And
imagining it being, right?
Imagining it being, yeah. And it's not fun. You're right. There's nothing fun about it. But there's also a release that you experience as you're going through it. And I can't honestly say I've had a complete release there, but I've had at least a partial release. So I'm sure I'll revisit it. But that
we're not doing it in fear of because I think I shared with you before we came on. Wednesday is my birthday, and I get to find out whether my dog has cancer or not.
Right.
Well, she already has cancer, but if it's spread into her organs, we're going to do the ultrasound on Wednesday. So that's my birthday gift to myself, is ultrasound for Lola. And I've already sort of done that. Like, if this is, she's 9, I wanted her to live a lot longer than this. But if this is the end, and I'm very attached to this dog. She is a canine reflection of my personality, just as stubborn as I am, and just as silly as I am. So I have done that with her as well. I've even imagined like the last moment and me having to dispose of her and do all of those things that you don't ever want to have to do with a pet. I've already walked through it. And so far I've done it in appreciation of the journey, that a pet has a shorter life journey than a human does. And everything has a beginning, middle, and end, and physical. And she came through my life, and I can just stand in appreciation of what I had with her and leave it at that. Or I may, there's nothing wrong with grieving either. If you're in a grieving process, I always say that suffering is always the should not be piece. And I'm not going to say that her demise shouldn't be, or I shouldn't be experiencing it. I'm going to take that out of it and just have whatever experience that I'm having with it.
Right. Yeah. Because ultimately what we're really talking about here is how much are we going to hang on to the parts that we feel like we have no control over.
Yeah. That's that should not be a non-preference. If you can start just dividing those two things, and I know both of you learned that in boot camp, but that's so helpful. Not my preference is fine. My preference, Lola lives to be 19 and not 9, certainly. But I'm not going to say that her demise shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because that's the path that she's walking, and it's happening, and I can't stop it. So I can accept it and appreciate even the departure experience, even the painful part. I can appreciate it.
That's huge.
We all need a good cry every now and then. We need a good release of pent up grief and negative emotion and all of those things. We definitely need that.
This is fascinating. We every time that you come onto the program and do a channeling, and you haven't always done channeling every time you've come on. You have most of the time, but not every time. But every time that you have done the channeling, it's always a different experience. This is very different from any of the other experiences that I can recall. And there have been a lot of them. I mean,
that's why I'm doing the transmissions, but I'm doing them every other week so that we get a fresh transmission every other Saturday. That's going to just, and there's no agenda. There's no, this is what we're going to talk about today. It literally is the group that shows up in the audience. They're bringing their energy. The stream is going to share what they share. There'll be some questions, from the audience, and it's just going to be what it is. So it can bounce all over the place.
I just realized we should also tell people who want to be a part of that. How do they sign up for that thing?
The new website is davidstrickel.com.
Oh, okay. Make it real simple. Yeah.
Yeah. Strickel.
Yes. Don't spell it the way I spelled it the last time. Just ignore that spelling.
Oh, did you misspell it? People have always spelled it LE and it's EL.
I normally don't, but I did that last time. I don't even know why I did that, but I did.
I've had that my whole life. People assume it's LE because Strickel sounds like
It
LE.
sounds it.
It's
Yeah.
E.
Yeah.
Strickel is probably how I should pronounce it, but there's very few Strickels in the world, especially in the United States. I think it's German. There's only a handful in the United States, so I don't hear the name much.
Yeah. Anne-Marie, you've been noticeably quiet, partly because I tend to take over these conversations at the stream. But what are you thinking here? What's your takeaway today?
My takeaway today, this has been really interesting and it's been great to watch and listen to the streams. I haven't had the stream for a while, and I can see how like it's progressed so much and the amazing stuff that's coming out. But I think for me, it was the conversation over COVID, you know, how everybody tried to put that fear out there. And actually, I look back, even though there were obviously things I struggled with working and homeschooling and all that, and you know, not seeing any loved ones, I actually look back with quite like fondness, but then I didn't have all that death. But, you know, that was my experience at the time. I'd started Taya and I'd raised my consciousness. And that's the kind of thing that keeps me going, is remembering things like that. So I think the sentence that just is Taya, and I think is the most powerful, is it only has the power that you give to it. And I think that's something everybody should remember going forward.
That's a great takeaway. I like that.
Thank you for sharing that. I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. It was really great.
And I can always count on you too, because you always find that one thread, and you just found it right there. That was the thread.
It was a good one.
It is a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Pat yourself on the back. You nailed it. That was really good. There you go. All right. Well, David, you can't be as much of a stranger. I mean, I said it was 6 months ago. I think you're right. It was more than 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I just got so busy. I wasn't doing anything other than building and building and building. And now I'm tearing. I got this fancy new Taya Academy sign. I have to take that down. Yeah, I was going to say I have to zoom out a little bit. Yeah, we had this beautiful new logo made, and I had the sign put in my studio here. And as soon as I put it up, I'm like, oh, it's time to take that down. I don't even think I paid the invoice yet. I got to pay it. I'm probably going to have nothing, maybe a piece of art back there. And, you know, I want to be about everything to be about the stream for a while. It needs to really be about the stream for a while. I think everybody needs the stream more than they need a coaching program right now from us.
Yeah.
So use that as like an initiative to say, okay, I'm going to come back to LOA today more often, because we love it.
I love being here, and I love seeing you both. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's fun. So yeah, don't be a stranger. Come back. We miss you.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.